and good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the June edition of County Fair. I'm very fortunate to have with us this summer, starting us all out with Wayne Coates, Hamilton County Recorder. Wayne, glad you could join us.
I'm glad to be here, Jason.
We're so happy to get this started because we've been in a little bit of a transition with the show, but it's always great to have returning guests back in the roundtable.
It's always good to be asked.
Thank you very much for coming. And of course, it's been a little bit of time since we've had you back, so let's catch up a little bit. What's been going on in your office recently?
Well, a little bit of everything. It's been a while. I think last time I was here, we were talking maybe about the e-recording or getting things online, and,
yes.
We've been able to do that. We've been really backscanning a lot of historical documents, which is the big thing. We've had the Family Search people come in from October last year, actually October 13 to April 14, and they've been able to backscan all our roll film that has been from like 1789 up to 1938.
Wow, you've really gotten definitely ahead of the game there. You're far further than what you thought, I believe. Didn't you have a certain timetable as?
Well, we've been trying to do as much as we can, but, given our budgeting and given our personnel issues, that it's been kind of hard. So we've had to do a lot with volunteers. Mm-hmm. One of the individuals that we were able to, that we gave a Griffin Euban Award to several years ago is a member of the Hamilton County Genealogical Society. He had a contact, let's back forward here and go say, he was at Procter & Gamble before he retired. He knew an individual that went out to Salt Lake with...
I was going to say, I remember you had a couple individuals coming from Utah coming in to help out as well.
Right. And they came to our office every day, and they used our Mickle, and one of the deals is that they would give us a copy of the film that they would do as far as digitally. Mm-hmm. So now we have a digital copy of that. However, what I've opted to do, because their server is much bigger than my server, is that we put a link onto our website that you can actually go in and research documents.
So basically, what a great partnership that you scan my back, I scan yours kind of thing, and be able to use the information.
It'd been a nice segue to that, but actually we had to do a contract. And of course, our prosecuting attorney looked at their contract and said it was not quite up to our standards. So it took us a little longer to get there, but once we got there, mm-hmm. it's been a great partnership.
And of course, you're into the 30s right now. You're obviously planning on going forward.
Well, we stopped at 1938 because that's when Social Security numbers came on.
Aha, time to redact at this point.
Well, that's true. And so basically what we looked at is the priority. Since we were the Family Search people, they were looking at a historical mm-hmm. line. However, from a title examiner's point, they look today back. So currently our records go back to 1988 as far as unregistered land, and then registered land go back to 2004.
Okay.
So actually that information is online forward because it has been redacted, and it costs a little over $100,000 to do that. Yeah, 18 million images.
And of course, we know how the budget is, which we'll be talking about in a little bit.
And again, I think that given the budget, though, I have to say that the commissioners have been good to me in the aspect that they have given me supplemental budgets in order to be able to do the redacting to put the images online. Mm-hmm. So, they give and take. But after the budget, there is a supplemental that they may be able to give you, depending on what the budget is. So, but actually what we're looking at, since our records go from 88 forward as far as unregistered land, we're looking to go back to 1973, which give a 40-year search.
Okay.
Most of the residential examiners search back 40 years. Now, commercial will go back 100 years because of 100-year leases.
Fair. Okay, that makes sense.
But right now, actually, we're currently backscanning the 88 back to 73. It's a long, laborious process because it's all roll film, and sometimes the quality has degraded a little bit. So. Again, one thing nice is that we do have the books downstairs.
So
we can always pull out the books, but
yeah.
Again, that's much more laborious.
Sure.
So, but again, it's getting where we need to be. But once we get those documents scanned and processed, mm-hmm. we still have to have them redacted.
Right,
So-
and again, there goes that extra cost, and
Looking at
it's
the budget.
great. And it's great to have for the digital age to be able to do so. Do you think that maybe not necessarily in your tenure, but we'll talk about that. Do you think that you would ever bridge the gap and see the two combined, and that you would be able to go back to the 38 and have a complete record of what you have?
Well, that's the goal. One of my goals is, and again, looking forward, is, we've been doing so much in the past, but again, I think what we're trying to do is do a virtual library.
Mm-hmm.
And so to make it all digital records. We've done a lot of other things because we have plats and other things that we'll get into probably a little bit later. But again, it's just trying to put as many things online. Plats don't have Social Security numbers on.
Right, that's easy.
Yeah.
When, of course, was that something you ever really thought about as a goal, to make this virtual library? When you were first elected, was that something like, I think I'm going to do that?
Well, actually, my goal was to get documents online.
Okay.
Because being in real estate, I used to pay a guy $25 to come downtown and look at a deed to see the ownership, and also a mortgage to see who had the mortgage. So again, it's a cost savings.
Sure.
But also what I look at is how can we be more receptive and work with our title community and realtors and engineers that use our office, and how can we make them more, just more online, so that they don't have to take their time, have to come downtown, pay a parking fee, and deal with all that when they can just print it at home or at their office.
Well, you were mentioning earlier, and that's kind of tying together both in saving time and money and helping people out. You're helping, obviously, the real estate community in that regards. You help us, for us homeowners at that point, and you also look at this historical reference from these three standpoints. Of this triangle, who gets really the higher priority, and do you think they're all a handshake away from one another?
I think it's all equal opportunity. Actually, when I came on board, elected in 2008 and 2009, we were at the height of the crash.
The ugliness that it was.
And it was real estate related.
Sure.
And being from the municipality, one of the things we look at is foreclosures and vacant homes. And then, of course, you want to know who owned the vacant home. And, of course, most times they started foreclosure, people would take off and leave a vacant house, and then of course, then you had to find out who was the mortgage.
Right.
So again, putting that information online gave a lot of the community development agencies throughout the county and the various communities access to those records. So, and again, from there it just rippled out, because everybody has a need. Again, I never got to a closing until the title was done.
Good point. Okay, yeah.
And of course, the title looks at who has the mortgage also, how many mortgages you have on that property. So again, you have to have a clear title. You need to be sure it's clear, and you have to look at who lays claim to the property.
You were just mentioning in regards to the crash, so to speak, and obviously we're starting to see some type of rebound. Are you seeing that activity in your office now? Maybe not so much of, as you're saying, probably more of the online aspect of it as opposed to the foot traffic that's coming into your office, or is it vice versa?
Well, I look at the recording is for our base point, because that's really how we derive our money, our revenue, I should say.
Yes.
And really, I look at, when I look out there on the floor, I can see how many people are using the computers, how many people are using the reader viewers. I can see, what type of activities out there on the floor, and it will translate to business down the road. But I can tell you from the first of the year to now, we're up about 6%.
Of the years that you've
From
been
last
in
year.
from last year. So you're looking at a greater increase than what you anticipated from what I remember our conversation last time.
Well, last year was so dismal, I can only reflect back to 2008.
Okay.
That's pretty bad.
That's really bad. But as you're saying, you're starting to see that positivity. You're looking at what you're considering as prospective business. That must be a good sign for Hamilton County then.
Well, I think when you look at Hamilton County, a lot of people look at the average sale price of properties and things like that, but they look at it as a region. When we look at Hamilton County, we have more localized information than just the board, because the board looks at it as the average. Average prices are up. Builders have a lot more optimism about it. Interest rates are still reasonably low. As I say, I go back to 1984. Rates were 16%. I say buy now and get the house. I mean, it's only going to go up from here. And again, when you talked about the Federal Reserve, they're talking about interest rate adjustments in the future. So we'll have to see. But again, right now you have the lowest rates I've ever seen.
I was going to say, because speaking from a homeowner, yes, I agree with you. They are very comforting right now. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the office. We've talked about some things that have gone on, that have gone some great things with the online information. Obviously, you've overcome some hurdles with the budget. And when you first started to today, where are you seeing today? Because obviously some budget talks have happened. And where are we with your office? Are we still safe, or are you...
Well, I think that actually last year was the first year that the legislature actually mandated an IT fund. And I get a minimum of $3 out of every document. So that generates a little over $300,000 for me. However, having said that, that is kind of a wash, because what used to, the IT guys that used to be in the general budget and the contracts and everything used to be in the general budget are now over into the IT fund. So therefore, the general fund budget went down.
Right.
So I say it's kind of been a trade-off.
And what have you been using said IT funds for? I mean, last time we were talking, you were talking about some different aspects you'd like to utilize with it. Have we put some money into compliance, into use?
Well, the first off, what I did is I hired an additional IT guy. I mean, they had me down to one gentleman who, if you have an IT programmer, and of course, as say we have 42 computers out there in the public area, and plus all the public employees' computers, I need a hardware person as well.
Yes.
But again, since we have a one-off system, it's mandatory that we have to have an IT programmer, because it has to, when things go down, it has to be worked on. So again, it's that's been the real movement, is trying to get more funding for that. And again, with that IT fund, we were able to get 6 or 7, actually 7 more reader viewers last year, because those are the ones that go by our old roll film. Mm-hmm. And again, the ones we had were from the 1990s. You could get parts for, they were breaking. Some of them even had coin changers on them that didn't even work anymore. So as I say, we've been able to upgrade our IT area as far as the reader viewers, the computers, printers, vendor cards. It's been good.
Well, looking at you're bringing up some of the older equipment, and as somebody who likes to look at vintage equipment, I guess we can call it now, at what point will you have to say some of that's going to have to disappear? Because, again, parts are very difficult to find. What type of replacement, I guess maybe not necessarily disappear, but what type of replacement are you looking for? Because I'm sure that's something down the road you're foreseeing.
Well, Jason, we have a 5-year plan. And again, right now we're looking at servers, because everything is on the servers.
Sure.
And so, basically what you have to look at is what the life expectancy, do you get 5 years or 10 years or whatever. So again, you have to program in replacement. Even on the CPUs, you have so much, software so much. And actually right now we're going through a major overhaul of review of our software for our cashiering for our unregistered land. And it's costing us over $130,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, the commissioners gave me a supplemental.
Okay, so you're still within what you need to do.
Yeah. Again, so as I say, and again, well, we had to have the cashiering because that's where the money comes in the door.
I don't think they were going to argue that
well,
point.
The system is original from 2004. It had 2,000 software on it from Windows, 2000,
so
old gateway computers. And again, when it goes down, it goes down. So, it's just trying to work with a little bit more efficiency, since look at all the upgrades and all the bells and whistles they have now in the software compared to 15 years ago.
Sure. And then to some point, you may have people walking around with tablets trying to help people out, everything being touchscreen. So,
well, actually, the other day I was talking to one of the title examiners, and we put Wi-Fi into the office. However, certain companies' security system doesn't like to have other people's Wi-Fi.
Understood.
So what they gave him was a transmitter from one of the companies they use, and he plugs it into the wall, and he's making copies, and then he's scanning the documents in, send them to the office.
Again, technology, the way it has changed.
Well, it's kind of like our e-recording, but back,
Well, that's true. That's true. Talking about changes, back in August of 2014, abolished registered land. The commissioners abolished registered land. What is the status of registered land now in Hamilton County, and what we're looking for in that area?
Oh, registered land is still there. Just before I had to set the abolishment date by law, and then of course the day before they come in there and filed a suit to stop it. And the common pleas judge has had 2 reports in 1 hearing and is not doing anything with the case. And it's almost a year now.
I was going to say, we just mentioned it was 2014.
Yeah.
We're still in murky
2015.
waters, yeah.
Well, I can't really say much about the court.
Sure,
Yeah.
it is understandable. Now, what was the idea that the commissioners wanted to abolish the registered land? Why was that a necessity for them?
Well, it's all about exposure and cost.
Okay.
And also it's a cost saving to the people filing the documents. If you look at back, well, I guess it's 14, the legislature changed the abolishment rules. And Butler County had just done theirs in April of 14. And so when they did theirs, they only had like 6,000 parcels. We had 52,000 parcels.
Okay, so there's a difference.
Well, a lot of farms were developed.
Sure.
And when you have a farm, next thing you may have 1,000 acres. Next thing you know, you have thousands of lots after subdivisions. But basically, what happened is that we were asked to do a cost analysis. We did a cost analysis of everything that is required by the code if you're looking to abolish it.
Mm-hmm.
We submitted that to the commissioners, and there was definitely a cost savings in it. Primarily, there's an exposure issue that I've always been very uncomfortable with, and that is that when a registered land certificate is conveyed, or it has to be surrendered to us.
Okay.
Because we have to generate the new certificate. The problem with that is that I may have mentioned that in 2004 we have a new system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, prior to that they had a computer system from '88, but it was never migrated into the 2004 system.
So you have what would be considered a foreign system versus a foreign system trying to combat with one another.
It never did. And basically what happens is if you have anything that comes in 2004, we can probably do a cut and paste.
Okay.
But again, our data entry people have to retype it all. And then if we have the old system from '08 or '88 to 2004, then it's what we call read-only. So therefore, you have to transcribe everything into the document. And if that's not there, then you go back to the books. So again, we have to do all the typing, and again, we have to have a person to verify that. And basically what we end up doing is we do a mock copy of the certificate.
Okay.
And we have to proof it to be sure everything is correct. Then we print it out on the hard paper, and it cost me almost $200 a case for that paper.
Well, I was going to say, because it's
density.
higher density, it's probably got, does it have a watermark on and everything else in there? Or
No,
just...
it's certificate paper, and it's a much higher density and quality. And I think if anybody's paying that kind of money, because again, you have to have a registered land attorney do the work, not a regular any other attorney, so they can charge what they want. But also, when you have to surrender the old certificate, a lot of people never had it. And I can tell you that we made $46,000 in lost certificates.
Because they were asking,
because we have to generate a new one for them, have to certify it, and then they have to file it with it. So we get the money for making the copy and then certifying and then refiling it.
Well, it's a win-win and win for you. Your department, however, does not bode well for the owner.
Well, the purchaser is the one who's getting stung.
Okay.
And actually, it costs twice as much to record as it did a normal document. Of course, you get better paper.
Well, I was going to say, you pay for that paper. That's the important part.
But again, it's the liability because attorneys, 85% of the land transfers are unregistered land.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very archaic system. It was brought in, it started back in the early 1900s, around 1913, and primarily because of all the development coming into place. Well, you have a lot of the townships and farms and stuff like that. People wanted to be assured of the boundaries.
Fair.
They can pay it into an insurance fund, have the property hard surveyed, and those boundaries are certified by the court. So again, it's a higher standard. The court will insure the title, or not the court, but the state.
So it seems like when people talk about, obviously, this type of area in your recording, most people do not understand what's going on. As you can see, it is not a simple process.
No.
And with as many things that you deal with, obviously challenges arise. That to me would be one of them. What have you foreseen as challenges that you've come up with this past year so far?
Well, since we did electronic recording and ties into the registered land, is a lot of people from out of town will send their documents in electronically.
Mm-hmm.
We do not take registered land because they have to surrender the certificate, have to have all those loops, and I don't care. We put it in our rules. We put it on the internet. We still get them.
Is that state regulated or is that county regulated for that particular rule, and that you're not accepting any electronic document?
Well, we can't because of
the surrender.
For registered land.
Okay.
Because again, it's that higher priority, and we had to have the surrender of the old certificate. Never there.
Okay.
So we tell them back and said, send it to us snail mail. And actually, just today I was informed, I got an email from one of our, from Simplify, one of the individuals out there that was complaining that someone had said that we didn't take a document in because of the signature. Well, he sent me a copy of the document,
mm-hmm.
and I looked at it, and it just so happens that page 15 and 16 had different fonts than the others that had the signature. So it was not consistent.
I would raise an eyebrow at that. That
Yeah.
would be a very interesting question.
Even though it had and again on the next page it had the notary and everything like that. After the signature, they said that we didn't take it because of the owner's signatures. Mm-hmm. No, we didn't take it because it was not a complete document. Checks and balances.
Checks and balances, and it makes perfect sense. I would, being a font Nazi that I am, if you're looking at that, I would have assumed something was wrong.
Yeah, well,
and I'm sure that could have possibly gone through your mind.
Well, when you get 1 through 14 and 17 all the same fonts, but 15 and 16 are not.
And then you have to question what were on those 2 pages that.
Well, all I'm saying is somebody inserted something different.
Exactly. That's where I was kind of leading towards, and I thought that's where you were seeing that as well.
Well, that's what I interpret.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I just told them to let the title company know that they should have their documents in order before they start sending them like that.
Obviously, this is a one-off anomaly, or at least it sounds like. How often do you have things that you have to turn away that are that may cause trouble for the end user?
Well, one of the things that is built into our system is that just like if we had a document coming over the mail, we have a sheet that says this is the reasons why we're not recording the document, and we send it back. One thing nice about the e-recording is you can transmit that electronically, and it's not snail mail.
Right.
Also, we don't have to worry about returning the checks or anything like that because the checks are not given to, or the money's not deposited into our account to that night.
Okay,
so we don't have that handling as well. But it happens, not that particular one, but there's a lot of reasons why we have to reject. But the nice thing about e-recording is that it can be corrected and resent back to us almost immediately.
I was going to say, so it sounds like the turnaround still is viable and is available.
It's not days, it's just a matter of, it could be hours, same day.
Looking at something like the e-recording is there anything else that you're seeing that is going to kind of revolutionize that so that things are in an expedient way? I mean, we are in this society in which everything we feel is entitled to be very instantaneous. Do you do you
Well,
see that coming?
well, what we're working toward.
Mm-hmm.
When I first came in, it's just like when we used to do the hand stamping of the book and page
Yes.
with a little stamper.
Yeah.
And now what we end up doing is we have a piece of software that reads the barcode, it goes through our scanner, and the pages as they go through, it's assigned the next numerical number.
Okay.
So it's done electronically. Now you'll get your document back, it only has the cashiering stamp in that page and the number of pages. But in our system, each one has
It
its
will have
ID
its
by
number.
its own page.
Okay.
So that's just one thing that we've done. And I don't have to worry about carpal tunnel now. So I mean, when you look at that, but what I've also looked at is how can we OCR it. Our current system is to be able to take and cut and paste instead of typing in the grantor, grantee, or conveyor, conveyee, buyer or seller, is that we can take and rubber band it. Well, we could say we can highlight it and paste it into our document. Or into our system off the document, because what it does, it comes up on the screen, we can take and highlight it, and then it rubber bands into our, populates our field.
Okay, so you are finding means to definitely expedite a lot of things.
Well, again, it's that thing about how can we make it better, how can we do it differently, and that's what we've been doing since I came in the door.
Well, we're going to spend this last bit of time. I know we're going to stretch it a little bit, but we're going to talk about the future. You're bringing up the future here. And that time of year is coming for election season.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne Coates, are you planning for a third term within your realm?
Well, I'm giving it pretty good consideration. I mean, I've still got a lot of things that we want to do, as I mentioned earlier. Again, it's trying to do what we can. We've come a long way, but I think we still have a little bit ways to go to get that virtual library.
I was going to say, it sounds like your work is not done then.
No, I'm still interested in the job. And it's amazing how fast time has come around to look at my third term. I mean, it would be. It's kind of interesting, I used to think 2 years went by pretty quick in the House, but it goes by pretty quick.
It goes by quickly. I mean, you have served in many different capacities. You have sat in this chair in different styles and formats with different hosts, but each one has put you into, obviously, public service. What was that call? There was obviously a call that's other than, you feel like your work is not done for this position, but each one has had a reason. What was your major involvement into public?
Well,
service?
I think I'd have to start back and look at my years in community service. I did 11 years in the JCs. That's kind of an old group that you don't hear much about.
You don't hear
anymore.
much about that any longer.
But I did all the local stuff, local president. Then I went on up, did five years at the state level. Then just serving in community service. My family came. My father and my two brothers, they've served in military service. I was apparently had a birth defect and couldn't get into service.
Okay.
So I give back through the community, and of course, be here in Forest Park. I started in one of the local boards and commission, and then people liked what I was doing and said, "Why don't you run for city council?" And kind of the rest is history.
I was going to say, from there it just went
It bit
a
me.
step.
Well, I think that public service, I know people take a lot of hit about it, and a lot of people don't like it, but I think what you can do to give back to your community, I mean, there's not a lot of profit in it.
No.
You take a lot of hits, but the main thing is that you just try to do the best you can for your community, and that's my motivation.
Well, it sounds that way because, again, you have been in this chair and in many different coats, and so to speak. But each one has always had a reason. And here we are as the recorder going into possibly your third term, thinking about what's not done. And I think is that not what you have said in each one? I won't move on until I'm complete, or until they tell you I can't be there.
Well, actually just this week, we've been working on another project. It's called the clerk plats. And a lot of people come to our office looking for the clerk plats, but we don't have them because the clerk does. But we've been able to scan the clerk records Okay. And basically what there are is lawsuits that have been settled through the courts that have things to do with plats.
Okay.
And so basically what we have been doing is we've transferred those, processed them, and now my IT guy's putting a line in under our plats area for the court's plats. And so people that will be looking for different lawsuits, especially title examiners,
Okay.
they can go to that area and find them. And of course the other plats is that we've been able to do all our subdivision plats from the 1700s to current. And so the surveyors and engineers don't have to come downtown. They can print them at their office.
Again, you're saving people time and money to do so.
Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about a plat complaint that goes to court, for those who aren't familiar, what would cause a plat to go into court?
Well, sometimes you have a quiet of the title issue of a boundary.
Okay.
Sometimes it could be a settlement. Mainly that's pretty much it. As I said something about the registered land. It's a lot of times when people will settle the registered land, do it that way as far as to quiet the title through a registered land thing. But again, you don't really need registered land because you can get a court order.
So it all makes
The common pleas court signs it no matter what. Either way.
Well, we have come down to the bottom of our hour here, and I just, again, want to kind of reiterate, we were talking about that third term, and I want to kind of put it out there. If you were to go for that third term, obviously you're saying your work is not done. What is the one goal that you would like to say, or what is the next step for your position as a recorder?
Well, again, it's fulfilling that virtual library. I mean, we've done a lot of back scanning of all the documents. But the other is record preservation. The other thing that I've looked at is that we've had to remove our documents, actually our roll film from I think it's Emeritus now. It's the Union Center.
The old Union Center.
We used to have it in the basement.
Okay.
Over here we were storing, because by law we had to do it in a remote location
Sure.
away from us. So I moved it to the Board of Elections site, and then now we're in the move again to the courthouse because they're getting new equipment and I had to move again. But the other thing is that the books that we still have because of the film degrading, we have 2 rooms downstairs in the basement that's not climate controlled. And I've talked to the county engineer about that. So again, we want to preserve the history of Hamilton County. Again, I say history is an anthropology in college, and record preservation, and that's one of the reasons why we put a hot site out here at the Comm Center, is that we have a duplicate system. In case our system goes downtown, we can pull from this one because it's a duplicate system. So again, record preservation, it's there, and of course, building that virtual library, closing the gap between 88 to 73, and then once we get that done, then we'll move back a little bit further.
Well, as you said, 2 years go by quickly.
4. 4 years by
4 years
quickly.
quickly as well. So, well, we'll definitely see you again and definitely keep things going. But it sounds like we will preserve your seat here for another time.
Always available.
Thank you, Wayne, for coming and joining us. I want to thank you as well for joining us as well. If you have enjoyed this program and want to do some more, please join us for watching them, but as also creating them. You want to create your own or to help us here? 825-2429. That's our phone number here. Volunteer. Be an active member of your community. That's what we're here for. I'm Jason Grisgork, Waycross Community Media's Government Access Coordinator, giving you the opportunity to talk to those in the know here on County Fair. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.